Alright, hello there, and we're going to make this video and talk a little bit about the prescribed burning that's going on in New Jersey and why we're not doing it here. So, first of all, I want to just show you the difference here between the New Jersey DEP and the New York DEC. Now, here we're on the DEP's webpage from New Jersey, and you can see they're in the Pine Barrens, and it says prescribed burning season underway. So you can see here they're talking about these are the controlled fires that they set in the Pine Barrens that basically are basically wildfires that they are setting in a controlled environment in a controlled way. That way, the fires they're happening under controlled circumstances versus uncontrolled circumstances, and you can see here the result of that. So you can see here that there's a notice. We're going to read that in a minute. But when we go to New York, we have nothing here about the Pine Barrens. Nothing at all about the Pine Barrens. Nothing. Absolutely nothing about the Pine Barrens. You see anything about the Pine Barrens here? I don't see anything about the Pine Barrens here. Nope, nothing at all. The only thing you have is there is a burn ban to prevent wildfires. So New York believes in heavy fire suppression versus having controlled burns. So there's nothing about the Pine Barrens in here. All right, you go to news, there's nothing about it. And in fact, this all comes, oh look, it just redirects us to Governor Cuomo. Yeah, what does that have to do with the Pine Barrens? Nothing. Nothing at all. So let's go back to New Jersey here. So we're going to read this notice about prescribed burning. So New Jersey State Forest Fire Service prescribed burning program is underway to help reduce wildfire risk. And we're not doing that here, but it's happening in New Jersey. So the State Forest Fire Service is setting prescribed burns to reduce undergrowth and other forest floor materials that have the potential to fuel wildfires, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection announced later today. Last summer, Governor Phil Murphy signed into law the Prescribed Burn Act. This is something that Cuomo should be doing. And what this act does is it preserves landowners' rights to prescribe burns, strengthen protections for practitioners, and expanded acceptable use of prescribed fire from reducing traditional hazard fire fuels to recognizing the benefit of habitat management as well as other forestry and ecological needs. The Forest Fire Service personnel use best management practices and follow a plan to control smoke impacts during the burns. But nearby residents and visitors should expect to see large plumes of smoke and may experience temporary impacts from smoke. Motorists are also reminded to use caution while approaching areas where prescribed burns are taking place by observing the posted reduced speed limits and being alert to the presence of trucks and Forest Fire Service personnel. Since 1906, the Forest Fire Service has protected property, lives, and infrastructure by creating defensible space and strategic fire breaks near developed areas, said Greg McLaughlin, the chief of New Jersey Forest Fire Service. These prescribed burns help prevent wildfires, reduce the intensity of these fires, and provide a foundation for safer and more effective fire suppression and protection operations. Prescribed burns, known as controlled burns, will continue if weather conditions are applicable. The burns are generally conducted during the late winter months to reduce the amount of smoke produced because weather conditions tend to be more predictable for safer controlled fires. The State Forest Fire Service works to provide as much public notice as possible on the areas where the prescribed burns are going to take place. So they give you a link to sign up here. A safe and effective method of burning away materials that fuel wildfires. Prescribed burns can be used to keep forest ecosystems healthy by improving wildfire habits, managing competing species of plants and trees, and controlling insects and disease, such as the southern pine beetle. Prescribed burns also help reduce the forest fire risk before prime wildfire season, which is typically in April and May in New Jersey. At that time of the year, fallen leaves, branches, and twigs are abundant, Day length increases and humidity can be low, and it can be warm and windy. These weather conditions, coupled with the lack of new leaf growth, makes forest debris more susceptible to the drying effects of the wind and the sun. Wildfires can have the greatest impact in areas where people live in or near forests, grasslands, and other natural areas. The sprawling pinelands region in southern New Jersey is especially prone to wildfires because its ecosystem has adapted the ability to depend on periodic wildfires for releasing of seeds for reproduction. Controlling the buildup of this fuel in this region helps keep the forest healthy. During prescribed burns, Forest Fire Service personnel use handheld torches to set smaller fires to burn away fallen leaves, pine needles, fallen branches, and other debris on the forest floor. Personnel consider wind, moisture, and other conditions in setting the fires, which influence a burn's intensity and severity to accomplish various resource and ecological objectives, such as hazard fuel reduction and habitat management. This season, the Forest Fire Service expects to conduct controlled burns on approximately 35,000 acres. Most burns will occur on state-owned properties such as state forests, parks, and wildlife management areas and other government lands. The service will also increase focus on assisting private landowners and nonprofit organizations to mitigate wildfire risk. In 2018, the Forest Fire Service responded to 629 wildfires, most of which were 1 acre or smaller. The largest was a 901-acre burn in Penn State Forest in Burlington County. So you can see that they are doing, they have a lot of stuff here about the Pine Barrens here. New Jersey is on top of their situation. So this is the Forest Fire Service's website. I'll provide links to it. So here we go. Prescribed application, prescribed fires, and they really have an excellent system here. Whereas New York has nothing. This is the New York side, and it's a joke. It's a joke, is what it is. It's a joke, and it's mostly all about upstate. They don't even talk about Long Island. They don't even care about the Pine Barrens. This is the problem we have on Long Island. And when we talk about, there's nothing. You go to the New York State DEC. They're on Facebook, I believe. We can look at their Facebook, I guess. So New Jersey knows what they're doing. New Jersey cares about its Pine Barrens, whereas New York doesn't. All right, and you can see here. Look at all the fires that they have prescribed burning. And this is an example of what it looks like. Here, somebody did put up a video of what it looks like, so you get to see. It's a controlled burn, and you can see it's burning off the underbrush. This is in the Pine Barrens. You can see that there's some pitch pines around, again, this is what they do here. And so this is basically is a controlled wildfire. So, well, it's not a wildfire; it's a controlled fire, but it mimics what a wildfire would do without it getting out of control. And it's very important, and it really is important for the health of the Pine Barrens. Now, before these fires happened due to lightning. Lightning set them off a lot, but now we have to do them in a controlled manner. So this way we don't have an uncontrolled wildfire. So showing you their Facebook here. This is New Jersey's Department of Environmental Protection and their site, and this is New York's. And there's a big difference here, all right? And that is that they talk about the Pine Barrens here. All right, Pine Barrens get respect here, all right? And they talk a lot about prescribed burning. They talk about the Pine Barrens. They talk about everything here that is, they cover the whole state, fairly and in a fair manner that they do. All right, they talk about Wharton. They added 700 acres to the Wharton State Forest. All right, and that's in the Pine Barrens. All right, and we look at New York. What's New York done? They talk about upstate, Catskills, Adirondacks. They don't even talk about Long Island. It's always about upstate. They don't even talk about Long Island. And so this is the problem we have. And they don't talk about the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens are left out. When was the last? I'm going back here. When did they talk about the Pine? Talk about the Pine Barrens at all? Do they talk about the Pine Barrens at all? Let's see. Nope, that's Saratoga. That's upstate. It's all about being upstate. Upstate, 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 upstate. They don't talk about the Pine Barrens. This is the problem we're having. There's no one talks about the Pine Barrens on New York. We're forgotten. This is the problem we're having. So, go to the State Pine Barrens Commission, and we'll take a look now and compare how the New York State Pine Barrens Commission and the New Jersey Pinelands Commission. We'll take a look at the difference in those two. Okay, so first we start off with New Jersey and their Pinelands Commission. So they talk about prescribed burning. They talk about the Pinelands National Reserve. They talk about all this stuff. So a lot of information here. I'm not going to go over all of it. And this is ours. And this is the Central Pine Barrens Commission for Long Island. Do they talk about controlled burns at all? Are there any mention of controlled burns? Springvoss says here how you can survive a wildfire. They make fire out to be a bad thing. This is the difference between New York and New Jersey. And so they have a map of and again, this tells the tale right here. Look at how tiny Long Island is, and look at New Jersey. All right, so that's the difference right here. Our work, land management, land protection, New York wildfire management. Let's go to wildfire management. What are they doing on Long Island about fire-dependent ecosystems such as the Pine Barrens? Do we talk about? Is there any mention of controlled burns here? Providing increased and enhanced training for volunteers via expanding the use of prescribed fire. That's good. That's good, but not enough is being done. Where are there prescribed fires that are happening this year? Where are there any prescribed fires in our Pine Barrens? I haven't seen any management of it, anything of it. So I haven't seen anything about. They're talking about ATVs. They're not talking about prescribed fires, and this is why we're getting hammered by these beetles. New Jersey gets it. They understand what's going on, and they know that the Pine Barrens need fire, and they're managing it. We're not doing anything. And so in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you a clip of what a prescribed fire looks like from a distance, and then we're going to look at Google Maps and take a look and see how New York's Long Island Pine Barrens are really suffering, and we could see our Pine Barrens disappear on Long Island without fires.
Alright, check this out. That, you see, I'm just taking this very short video. I did a nice, beautiful hike in New Jersey today. Some clouds popping up now, but it was clear most of the day. But that is a big controlled burn there going in, I believe, down by Whiting. These controlled burns, they really are to, mimic a wildfire. It's pretty much a wildfire, a controlled wildfire. And this, my friends, is what keeps it piney, and this is what we need to be doing on Long Island. New Jersey's been doing this now for the past month, where they've been doing controlled burns all over the place. And this is great because this keeps the forest healthy, keeps it piney, and it prevents an out-of-control wildfire. So again, that's a great thing here in New Jersey. Figured I would share that with you.
All right, so let's look at the Pine Barrens. We'll start off with Long Island first, and I'll show you what the problem is. We don't have controlled burns. And just take a look at any typical area in our Pine Barrens and see here. So we'll go ahead and look at Manorville, I guess. So we'll look at this area here, right? Northampton. All right, we already have signs of southern pine beetle. Here's a tree that's already being affected by it. This is the problem we have, all right? We have a lot of brush. We have a lot of oaks. And a lot of, you can see all the brush. First of all, there's tons of it. All right. Take a look at another area. I'll show you some various areas in the Long Island Pine Barrens to show you all the brush here, that we have a lot of brush growth and a lot of oaks. All right. It's a big problem. All right. Show you some other areas. Let's look along the expressway is a good example. This is a good example right here. So again, you see all the brush and how dense the trees are together. Alright, this is unhealthy. If we get to the other side of the road, that would be good. I guess it's not going to let me. Here it is on the other side. And I know it looks beautiful, but it's not healthy because there's too much brush. It's too overgrown. Let's take a look at another area off North Street in Manorville. Oh, you could see, look at all these trees that are dying due to the beetles. Alright, we can look at that too. This is taken in the winter. Again, you see the oaks. A lot of oaks. There's brush. This area hasn't had a fire. Well, there was an uncontrolled fire not that long ago here, but you can see, look at all the trees getting affected by southern pine beetles here. So, again, this doesn't look healthy. It's not good to see. And this is all, again, due to the lack of fire that we have in our pine barrens. So, we're not having controlled burns, so as a result, this is what we're getting. It's overgrown. You can see there's another pine that's being affected by southern pine beetle. And you have a lot of oaks that are invading the area here, and it's not healthy. All right. So this is what's happening to our pine barrens. They're getting choked out because there's no fires, and the fires that do happen are wildfires. And when you have a wildfire, it kills everything. So this is an area that had a wildfire, and you can see there's nothing. It's just because it was an out of control wildfire that even killed the pine trees. All right. And then we can look at a few more areas here, because it's important that we go and we look at a lot of areas to compare. So here is Smith Road in Ridge, and again, a lot of oaks, and the oaks shade out the pines. Now, if normally fires would kill off these oaks, but we're not getting the fires, so the fires are being heavily suppressed. Because New York believes in heavy suppression, and therefore, as a result of that, you have an overgrown forest with oaks, and it's choking out the pines. All right. We could look at a couple other areas, and then people will say, "Oh, well, there's too much development." Well, that's exactly why you should have the controlled burns, because with the development is going to be at risk when there is an out of control wildfire. Right, we can look over here and see the same thing. So you can see some pines here, and this looks like a fairly piney area. But again, you got a lot of brush here, and it's concerning. And once you get into the forest, you see that there's a lot of oaks. The pines are growing along the edge of the road where there's more light. This is another thing that happens on Long Island that you don't see in New Jersey. You can see the dark green of the pine growing along the road, but the bright green of the oaks that are inland, because the oaks have now shaded out the pines, and there hasn't been a fire to thin out the oaks. And eventually, again, you'll have an out-of-control fire, which is what happened in Manorville. I'm trying to think, it was in this area right here. You can easily see where that fire burned. And this was the last major wildfire in the Pine Barrens. You can see this was a wildfire. So you could see all the trees just destroyed pretty much because it was a wildfire. It was not a controlled burn. Had there been a controlled burn, then we wouldn't have had a wildfire. So this is another area that's been affected by a wildfire. Some trees have survived, but you can see here this is an out-of-control wildfire. What wound up happening was because it was in a wildfire, a lot of the pines were killed, and the seeds got burned up completely. So now you have a bunch of oaks growing in again. So again, an unhealthy fire balance. This is what you have on Long Island. This is what happens when you have an unhealthy fire balance. So now let's look at New Jersey and show you what it's supposed to look like. Alright, so now let's take a look at New Jersey. And here's Lakewood, where we talked about all the problems. But even if this area gets ruined, even if Lakewood gets ruined, south of Toms River, this area is all preserved. It's all going to be okay. Alright, so let's zoom in. And take a look at New Jersey. And see how different their pines look. Alright? So you'll notice right away a lot more dark green because there's a lot more pines and a lot less oaks. Alright, and you can see here it's much more pinier. Alright? There's much less oaks growing in. This is just one area. To show you, this probably isn't even the best example. Because I've kind of already showed you what it's supposed to look like, but I'll show you again. And you see these red areas here? These are areas where they've done controlled burns, right? So there's a lot of them. All right, go over here. And again, you see it's different. The trees, there's more space between the trees. Not as many oaks. There's some oaks, but not as many. It's a healthier looking forest. Right? You can see here, again, you see the space, you see the space between the trees. It's healthier looking. Right? Because if there have been fires and controlled burns in these areas, to keep them healthy. So you have healthy spacing between the trees, and the pines look like they're doing much better as a result of that. Again, you have that controlled. This is what controlled burns do. It makes it look a lot healthier because you have, this is not even in a park here. This is just along a road. But just to show you the difference here, you have a lot more space between the trees. And it's a lot healthier as a result of that. And you can see it's a lot healthier. Less oaks, they have more controlled burns. Show you some more areas that have had controlled burns. Let's look at Lacey Road. This might be an area that's had controlled burns. Yeah, this is definitely an area that's had controlled burns. So let's take a look at this. Again, you see the spacing between the trees. And again, it's mostly pines. You don't have as many oaks. I mean, understory is important. I mean, you'll always have huckleberries and stuff like that, but you don't have all that scrub oak that's choking out the pines like we do on Long Island. So here's another look at a properly maintained forest here of pitch pines here. That is by Miller Air Park in New Jersey. And again, you can see mostly pitch pines because they've had controlled burns. This is the difference. So what's going to happen to Long Island without controlled burns? What's going to happen to our pine barrens? It's that simple. It's going to disappear. What's going to happen is what you're already starting to see is a combination of out-of-control wildfires as well as southern pine beetle outbreaks. All right, now we're going and taking a look at this area in David A. Sarnoff Preserve again. This is where we saw those trees that were marked. So what the DEC decided to do, because they really don't like doing controlled burns in New York, they decided to just cut down trees and do thinning, which is not going to work. You need to have fires. Without fires, the beetles are going to spread, and it's going to only get worse. You know, it's really unfortunate that New York just doesn't get it. And it really is unfortunate. Now, there have been wildfires in the Long Island Pine Barrens that have been beneficial, that haven't been too crazy. And one of them that happened, and I'll point them out to you, is off Quag Riverhead Road here in the David A. Sarnoff Preserve in the southern part. And you can see that there's still a lot of brush, though, that's already built up because there hasn't been another fire in this area for a while. And then we can take a look at West Hampton, which, of course, has seen some very large wildfires in the 90s. And this area, that area has come back very successfully, as you see here. And most of these pines are short because this is in the dwarf pine plains. But again, you need to have fires to maintain this environment, and the DEC is not doing that. And as a result of that, you're starting to see issues, again, with the southern pine beetles. And we're going to look at some areas that were affected by them, particularly in the Henry's Hollow and West Hampton, in the Hampton Bays areas that have been severely affected by southern pine beetles. It looks like they have removed a lot of the infested trees in this area. To their credit, I'll give them that. But we should be ahead of the curve here and preventing these things from happening by having controlled fires. And right now, that's not what's happening. And you can still see here this is not too far from Sears Bellows, a lot of, you don't see this in New Jersey. All these dead pine trees. You don't see that because they have controlled burns. We're not doing it, so therefore we're getting affected very heavily. And you can see There's some more over here, and wherever you look on Long Island, you can never go far without seeing southern pine beetle outbreaks, and it's really unfortunate. This is what's happening because we're not having the controlled fires, and I'll say it. The DEC needs to get it. They need to have more controlled burns because our pine barrens are getting choked out by the lack of fire, and when the fires do happen, they are out of control wildfires that are destructive. And so we really need to be doing better, proper management of our pine barrens. Without it, we could lose most of the pine barrens, and then there'll really be no reason to live on Long Island. If there's anything that's going to make me leave Long Island, it'll be the destruction of the pine barrens, because I have to have pine barrens. I have to be near the pine barrens, and if it means sweating it out in New Jersey to be in the pine barrens because the ones on Long Island are gone, then that's what I'll have to do. But it's hot. It's hot here. This is where Ocean County Airport is. This is where it's hot. It's very hot in this area in the summertime because, again, there's no sea breeze. But again, they have a healthy forest, and because they have a healthy forest and a healthy ecosystem, their pines are thriving. And you can see it just looks a lot more organized. And you notice that the age of the pine trees are older too. Generally, you have older pine trees. The pines live longer. They have lower mortality in New Jersey versus Long Island, and it's all because properly managed. The fires are not suppressed; they are encouraged, and we need to be doing the same on Long Island. So, in conclusion, it's not too late for Long Island. We just need the DEC to wake up. We need to get the controlled burns. We can do it here. There's no reason we can't. And if it means going and asking New Jersey for help, then so be it. But I really do think we still have a lot here. We still have a lot of pine barrens that are still doing okay, but we've got to protect what we have, and part of that is keeping the proper fire balance. That's a big part of that. We have to do that. It's critical. It really is critical, and people need to realize that. And we need to speak up about it because it's extremely important that we do. And I just wish that the state would do more for us. And we're not getting. Long Island doesn't get what it needs from New York because we're forgotten. And this is another reason why maybe we need to consider forming our own state. But our elected officials need to go to Albany and demand that our pine barrens get respect, that they get what they deserve, and they get the proper controlled fires that we need. 35,000 acres is what New Jersey did in just 1 year. If we could get them to come here, they could probably have controlled burns in a lot of our pine barrens in a couple of years and restore the proper fire balance that we so desperately need here on Long Island. So that is going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you for watching, and let's keep Long Island's pine barrens piney. Okay, that's it.